Are Savi's workshop lightsabers realistic or are they too fake? Let's talk about this. So, okay, there are several reasons we could argue that they are realistic, okay? A lot of the components from Savi's workshop lightsabers are metal, so that gives them kind of a heft and a little bit of a realism that way. This lightsaber hilt here, this is a power and control lightsaber, Savi's workshop power and control lightsaber, and the hilt alone weighs over 2 pounds, so I know a lot of people have said that weight to the hilt adds some realism. It certainly does, and it differentiates these Savi's workshop hilts from, just cheap plastic toy lightsabers, so it has that going for it. And also just the fact that, you're building your own lightsaber, so that sort of, you could argue, adds some realism, because it's not very realistic for all of us individuals to have the Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber, right? Obi-Wan has his own lightsaber, so in some sense, Savi's workshop, just the concept in general of building a so-called custom lightsaber, that makes the experience more realistic and thus the lightsaber more realistic. So it lights up, it makes sound, it has all the cool lightsaber features. When you install the crystal into, the crystal chamber in the hilt, it makes a sound, it lights up a little bit, so that adds some realism too, and that actually differentiates the Savi's workshop lightsaber from several of the custom lightsabers that are out there. Here, I'll actually turn it on while we're talking about realism. So it has that realistic saber scroll where the light kind of progressively fills up the blade. It makes different sounds, it has clashing, changes colors even a little bit. All of these reasons would contribute to, kind of the realism of this hilt. Okay, now for the kind of fakeness of the hilt, there are several reasons we could argue for that as well. Kyber crystal, okay, so it adds some realism because it illuminates a little bit, and it also controls the lightsaber blade color. On the flip side of it, it feels very artificial, so it's kind of a plastic material, which, it may need to be just to kind of standardize it, and since seems like there's some type of electronic component in it, to activate the blade color and all that, so that makes it a little more fake. The weight of the hilt and just kind of the oversized feel of the hilt makes it seem a little bit more fake, a little more cartoonish. So this doesn't look quite like the lightsabers we see in the Star Wars movies. It seems larger because it is larger than most of the lightsaber hilts we see in the movies. And even the coloring is very kind of consistent, and it's sort of like painted on. It's a little bit hard to describe. It feels a bit over the top as opposed to, some of the lightsabers we see in the Star Wars movies. They could be weathered, they could have a little bit of character, there might be a little more shine to the hilt. This is pretty muted. I'm going to just pull out some custom sabers as examples. So this is a Roman Props MK1. It's an Obi-Wan Kenobi style hilt. You see that it's tarnished and it's more realistic, right? If we put these side by side, they almost don't look related. They're both somewhat cylindrical, but just the design of these is very different. And this has the sort of found parts feel of, a lot of lightsabers, especially the original trilogy lightsabers, whereas this one does have more of the modular feel, which that's how you build it, right? You mix and match the components, but they all feel very prefabricated and look very prefabricated. But let's pick out another one. This is a Saber Forge Phoenix. So it's an Ahsoka Tano style lightsaber hilt. Of course, some of these that I'm kind of comparing are character-inspired designs, so, that's another fair point mixed in there. But anyway, that just the look and feel of these hilts, it's very over the top. The diameter of the hilt is wider than many custom sabers and official lightsabers, so it's about 2 inches in diameter. That's quite wide. It's about 12 inches long, a little bit less, which that's somewhat standard for lightsabers actually. So that's a pretty neutral point. It's not kind of, in favor of realism. Well, actually that adds to realism, I would say, rather than detracts from realism. But What do you guys think? That covers most of my main points. Do you think the Savi's workshop lightsabers feel realistic, or do they seem kind of fake? A lot of this is subjective, a lot of it's a matter of opinion, but it's always fun talking about it, so feel free to comment below.